My name is Maithe Mothama, and I work with Life Ministry Kenya. Today I want to focus on a topic about how to do missions from the home. At such a time as this, many things have changed, and you might be wondering, how can I be able to do missions, especially during this time? Does missions have to be one-on-one? And those are the questions that we want to address today. Before I continue, let me start by sharing a story. I met one person named Isaac 3 months ago, and after having a conversation with him, he gave his life to Christ. But now the challenge was, how can I be able to do follow-up with him? And the good thing is, in this time and season, you can actually use the phone to be able to do discipleship and follow-up. And it's very exciting that during this time, that we're able to engage with Isaac, have a conversation. I called him, told him to download the Jesus Film app, and from the Jesus Film app, he's actually getting to draw lessons on how to grow in his walk with Christ. And that is very exciting. When you're thinking about how to do missions in this season, it is possible, and all you just need to do is to be able to use the technology we have. And it is written in the statistics that if we look at the stats that are talking about Kenya, they say that Kenyans are able to access internet very well using the mobile phone. So let me start by just sharing some brief stats about the top social messaging apps currently that are being used across the world. When you think about the global internet users, they are 4.5 billion people. Think about that. 4.5 billion people, and with the click of a button, you can actually be able to share the gospel with all these people. Out of the 4.5 billion people, many of them are using Facebook, a number are using WhatsApp, YouTube, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, and all those other tools for basically engaging in different things. When you think about the current world population, we are talking about 7.75 billion people, 7.75 billion people, and out of these people, 4.5 billion are using the internet. So when you think about how to do missions in this season, at such a time as this, you just need to use the internet to be able to share the gospel. Let me continue to share some more stats about the Kenyan Stats. And the Kenyan Stats basically say that people that are accessing the internet using the mobile phones are 68.8% using the mobile phones. The others that are accessing internet using laptops and desktops is close to 30%. So when you think about that, how strategic it is for us to be able to share the gospel using the mobile phones, because many Kenyans are actually accessing internet using the mobile phones. When you think about the top messenger apps around the world, in Kenya, WhatsApp is really leading. When you think about across Africa, WhatsApp is also being used by many people, and that is a tool that can be able to use to share the gospel. When you think about sharing the gospel in the digital space, we are not just saying that you want to just publicize, put the gospel in our WhatsApp status, but you want to take the people through a certain journey. And this journey, I'll call it the journey grid. And we want to take people from, let's say this person is unaware, he does not know about the gospel. We want to take the people from unaware to someone who is curious. And this person who is curious is asking different questions about the gospel. How can I grow in my walk with Christ? And how can I be able to disciple other people? From curious, we get to follower. And follower is now a young believer. Then from follower to guide. So we're talking about these 4 kinds of people. Someone who is unaware, someone who is curious, someone who is follower, and someone who is a guide. And that is a journey that we want to take people through. We are not talking about a guide. This is a 2 Timothy 2:2 kind of person. 2 Timothy 2:2 says, "And the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, and trust reliable men will also be faithful to teach others." And that is our prayer and desire, that even as we are sharing the gospel in the digital space, that we'll be able to generate and actually have many guides to be able to share the gospel in that platform. So if you were to do a quick survey of the church, which social media tool do most members use? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it WhatsApp? Is it Instagram? Or is it TikTok? That is a question for you. And the good thing is, that is where to start. If you think about where is the populace, that is a church, then you can now start thinking about outside the church, where are most people really engaging in terms of social media. So that when you're thinking about coming up with a mission strategy, that you are really thinking of reaching out to the people where they are. We normally say that as a digital missionary, we basically go to where people are. And you can actually be a digital missionary. All you just need to do is to have a gadget. We are saying you just need to have a mobile phone and to have the passion to be able to share the gospel. So you might be here and you're asking, why should I share the gospel in the digital space? Why should I share the gospel in the digital space? I want to use the acronym CHRIST to break it down, why we should share the gospel. The acronym CHRIST. So the first letter is C, and C is for command. And for command, we look at Matthew chapter 28, verse 18 to 20, the Great Commission verse. Matthew 28, 18 to 20 says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." Matthew is very clear that it is actually not a suggestion, but it is a command. When you think about the digital space, we are called to go and share the gospel in that platform. That's Matthew 28, 18 to 20, the command. Let's go to the next letter, which is harvest. Matthew chapter 9, verse 36 to 38. Matthew 9, 36 to 38 says that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. When you think about the 4.5 billion people that are accessing the internet, that is a large population, and many yet do not have a relationship with Christ. So the harvest is plentiful, and someone says that the harvest is online, but sometimes us as laborers are offline because we're actually not getting to the internet. We think when you get to the internet, we may not be able to do as much. So that is why it is important for us to be able to get into that digital space. Let us go to the next letter, which is R, reconciliation. 2 Corinthians 5, 17 to 20. 2 Corinthians 5, 17 to 20 talks about that we have been given the ministry of reconciliation, that we are Christ ambassadors, and they are supposed to continue sharing the gospel with as many people as possible to reconcile them to Christ. That is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17 to 20. Let's go to the next letter, which is I, and I is for invest. And the verse is Philippians chapter 4, verse 1. Philippians 4:1 talks about the need for us to invest. Let me just open the Bible, and the good thing in this season is, as long as you have the phone has all those things. You just need to download a Bible, and your phone can be able to access all these resources. Philippians 4:1 says, "Therefore, my brothers, you whom I love and long for, my joy and my crown, that is how you should stand firm in the Lord, dear friends." When you're talking about the people that give their life to Christ, the ones that you're actually reaching out to, you're actually doing an eternal investment. Because the people that give their life to Christ, they are going to be your joy and your crown. And that is why it is important for us to invest our lives, invest our time, invest our resources to share the gospel, especially in the digital space. S is for share. Matthew chapter 10, verse 8 says, "Freely you have received, freely give." Freely you have received, freely give. And the last verse I want to focus on from the last letter in the acronym T is time, and the verse is John chapter 9, verse 4. So John 9:4 says, "As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work." That night is coming when no one can work. At such a time as this, when you have the access to the internet and all these other things, then you should be very bold in sharing the gospel in the digital space. John Stott, a missionary, says that we must be global Christians with a global vision because our God is a global God. When you think about missions in such a time as this, we are saying that you're not limited to just Nairobi, you're not limited to just Kenya, but you can actually be able to share the gospel all across the country, all across the world. We are talking about countries that might be landlocked, maybe countries where you cannot be able to share the gospel freely. But you are saying with the internet, you can actually be able to share the gospel with as many people as possible. In Life Ministry Kenya, we normally say that success in witnessing is simply taking the initiative to share the gospel in the power of the Holy Spirit and leaving the results to God. That even as you're sharing the gospel, it is not so much about my skill or what I am doing. It is all about what the Holy Spirit is doing, convicting the people. My part is to go and share and leave the results to God. When you think about the gadgets that we have, let's use these gadgets for sharing the gospel and making an impact in our generation. Now that we have seen why we need to share the gospel, the acronym Christ, that it is a command, the harvest is plentiful, the ministry of reconciliation you've been given, I for invest, S for share, and T for time. Let's now talk about some of the tools I can be able to use to share the gospel. Some websites that I recommend our website like everystudent.com, the Jesus Film, the God Tools app. These are very good websites that we'll be able to use to share the gospel. Let me give some stats of what you've been able to see in the last 3 years. That in 2018, when you think about, we normally look at the analytics, how many people are accessing the different sites that we are using. Everystudent.com, if you are to do an average, in 2018, every country we had 33.6 billion visits. That's an average of 470,000 decisions in the year 2018. So on average, we are saying that 1,300 new believers gave their life every day in 2018. When you think about that people are actually going to access resources from everystudent.com, they are going to Jesus Film, and they're accessing these resources. One of the testimonies I have is of this young man called Yared. Yared hails from Eritrea. Yared comes to know Christ through interactions with an online mentor in everystudent.com, and he's very excited. And follow-up happens, discipleship is ongoing, and does not stop there. Out of that, he's now very excited, and he says, now that I'm in this country, I want to start sharing the gospel with many other people. He forms a WhatsApp group and starts sharing the gospel with countries in the Middle East, countries where we might have challenges sharing the gospel freely. And out of that, discipleship is happening. When you look at the latest stats, we're able to see that he has been able to share the gospel with over 700 people, and 33 have given their life to Christ. That is one person. When you think about us as a current population, the Christians in our country, the population of 40 million. If you are to say that half of that population are Christians, if 20 million Kenyans who are Christians could be able to share the gospel in the digital space, the way Yared has done, we can actually be able to see many coming to Christ. And this is all possible, we are saying, at the comfort of your home, because during this season when people are working from home, it's also an opportunity for us to be able to share the gospel online. So everystudent.com is a good tool. You can be able to share the gospel. So I've been talking about the numbers. We are talking about 4.5 billion. You're talking about 300,000. But I want us to remind us one thing, that behind every number is a person. And behind every person is a story. There's a Yared, there's an Isaac, there's a Morris, and these are people who are sharing the gospel. These are people who might be struggling and are yearning for someone to talk to them, especially in the digital space. Today I want to also just look at some tools that can be able to use for sharing the gospel. One of the tools that has been very effective in the last number of years is called the Jesus Film app. And when you just go to the phone, you can be able to download the tool from Play Store. The Jesus Film app is one of the tools that you can be able to use to share the gospel. The other tool that you can be able to use is called God Tools. And all these tools are very relevant and helpful for sharing the gospel. When you think about the Jesus Film tool, the Jesus Film has been translated in over 40 languages in Kenya. So let's say that you are there and you're wondering, how do I share with the people in Turkana, in Samburu, in Kwale, and how can I be able to share the gospel with them? You just need to download the tool, the Jesus Film app, and follow the process. Go to the language and get to share the gospel with a person using the tool that is relevant. That's the Jesus Film tool. And you are seeing that in the Jesus Film tool, there are resources targeting students, there are resources targeting women, there are resources targeting sportsmen. People want asking themselves, how can we be able to engage with sportsmen using different short films? So there are lots of resources there. And you have to look at it critically. All the resources in the Jesus Film, if you have to use all of them, they'll be able to take over 2.5 years to be able to utilize all those resources. That is a Jesus Film tool. So just go to Play Store, write Jesus Film project, download the tool, and we'll be able to hear even more details of how to be able to engage further. The other tool I want to recommend is called God Tools. God Tools has tools like the 4 spiritual laws there. Someone might be agnostic and is asking different questions about God. Where is God? In the God Tools app, there are lots of resources there on how to engage non-believers, agnostics, and also discipleship tools that can be able to use to do both evangelism and discipleship. So you're saying all you just need is internet, a phone, a smartphone to be able to download these tools. Then you can be able to share the gospel with these people. So now that you know where the tools are, the next thing is, I have the tools. What is the next thing? After I now have the tools, the other thing will be, we have different things. There's WhatsApp, there's Facebook. The WhatsApp status is something that many people are using a lot more to share the gospel. Let's say I want to put a verse. I just put a verse on my WhatsApp status. Then look at how many people are going to view my WhatsApp status. Every day you can be able to have over 200 people viewing your WhatsApp status. So instead of just putting verses, you can actually put a short clip, a 1-minute clip about the gospel, a 1-minute clip about discipleship. Then you can actually put a question there. This is an interesting clip that I saw about evangelism and discipleship. Watch, then you can give me feedback. Then out of that, you can be able to start spiritual conversations. We are seeing that during this season, think of some creative ways to be able to share the gospel, whether it is in WhatsApp, whether it is in Facebook, but very important that we need to pray and ask the Holy Spirit to give us wisdom as we are sharing the gospel in the digital space. Sometimes as you're sharing the gospel in the digital space, you can feel that it is taking too long, so it is important for us to be patient. Even as you put the information there, be patient, pray. Some people will get back to you immediately. Some people may actually take a lot more time to get back to you. When you think about the opportunities for digital ministry, the first thing is that it is not limited by venue. You can do it anywhere. Now that I'm seated here, I can just pick my phone and text my friend in Garissa. You can actually just have a conversation. We are saying that the digital ministry is not limited by venue. You can do it anywhere. And it's also not very expensive. When you think about the data, I just need to buy maybe 1 gigabyte and start sharing the gospel with the different people in the digital space. So sometimes when you think about the opportunities, some of the challenges when you think about sharing the gospel might be some of the unreached people groups might not be able to be reached out to using some of the technology we have. So it's for you now to use some creative ways to be able to think of how best to be able to share the gospel, especially to such people. When all is said and done, the most important thing is to pray. Then after that, you care. When you think about some 10 people that can be able to share the gospel with, then you can actually be able to start sharing the gospel with them. So when you think about all the things that you're learning today, you can start thinking of some 10 people that can start sharing the gospel with. So start praying for these 10 people. Look for opportunities to care for them. Then look for opportunities to also share the gospel with them. As we said in John chapter 9, verse 4, that time is really not on our side. When you think about the COVID pandemic, that many people are losing their lives. We need to make Christ relevant in this season and share the gospel with as many people as possible. And I've shared many things. You might have many more questions about how to engage a lot further in the digital space. Some of the websites I'll recommend is indigitas.org. When you go to indigitas.org, you can be able to see and connect with many other digital missionaries that are in that space. And also when you go to the website for crew.org/us/en/digital ministry, you can be able to find many other resources there. So start today. Share the gospel and let us trust God to be able to see many come into Christ, especially in this season. Thank you very much. Looking forward to hear from you. God bless you.